And on Friday, we learned the NCAA finally handed down its notice of allegations for the University of Tennessee, and more importantly, Jeremy Pruitt, where names were named and money is on paper and pointing at different sources, not just Pruitt, but also his wife.
Mrs. Pruitt involved, one of those names that were named.
Helping pay for rent, among other things, upwards of $15,000 on that, and are just around $60,000 total, which points back to Pruitt and others within the program. So the biggest, I think, point of emphasis from it is what the NCAA says about Tennessee. While they are being, slapped on the hand a bit based on the wording and phrasing of things, it's not as though they failed to oversee everything that was going on. That it's made clear they didn't rise to that level or threshold of punishment based on the way the NCAA phrased the wording of the response.
And I'm glad we're bringing this up now because this news hit last week when I was out, and I had a lot of thoughts when I was reading through the notice of allegations.
51 pages of it.
From the NCAA, and I'm thinking, the big takeaway for Tennessee is no lack of institutional control. A failure to monitor charge to the head coach and his staff, no lack of institutional control. Now, when Tennessee made this play, when they did this, they decided, we're going to fire the coaches. We are going to hold a press conference. We're going to clutch our pearls over the violations that were committed. I'm thinking this is a dangerous gambit by Tennessee because they are admitting to some really bad things in a press conference in hopes that being forthcoming will save their future with the NCAA. And I was skeptical of this plan. I've seen LSU and Arizona and Kansas and others with this basketball scandal that have basically put the middle finger up to the NCAA and said, come and get us. We're going to keep our coaches that win, and we're not going to share anything with you. And I've got to say, Tennessee was right and I was wrong because they dodged a bullet. I think that they're going to get the punishment that they've already self-imposed, which was a couple of recruiting weekends this past year where they could not bring in recruits. They've already had scholarship reductions. They're probably going to get some more of that, but nothing crippling. I would be shocked if they get any sort of bowl ban. I think this is largely over with now from a Tennessee perspective. Now, on the Jeremy Pruitt side of things, he's screwed. He's going to get a 10-year show cause. I don't think he's ever going to coach in college football again. As crazy as that sounds when everyone says the NCAA has no power, when the school that employed you decides to go state's witness, ask Bruce Pearl when Tennessee decided to fire him over the barbecue. Tennessee could have helped protect him. They fired him. It made a 5-year show cause very easy for the NCAA because Tennessee fired him. I think the same is going to happen with Jeremy Pruitt. I think Tennessee probably played this the right way just by saying, here's all of our information. Here you go, NCAA. We're inviting you to campus. We're going to investigate with you. Here's what we found. Turn it over. And then you get these statements from the NCAA saying, Tennessee is now the standard of how you handle an NCAA investigation. I read that, Paul, and I immediately think that means they're not going to get hit with anything more than a slap on the wrist.
I think they handled it perfectly well after the fact. I think they've done a remarkable job getting off the hook, not with the NCAA, but like reputationally for what they did that got them on the hook in the first place. Philip Fulmer is a beloved figure in University of Tennessee lore, as he should be. But he did a crappy job when he came in to save the last disaster and created what could have been another disaster. Wasn't a football fix. Jeremy Pruitt was an awful hire. Jeremy Pruitt was awful. I know they got on a little bit of a winning streak there that looked like it had some promise, but the guy didn't know what he was doing. It was a bad hire.
By the way, a guy that he interviewed, one of the three, is Mel Tucker, who's one of the highest paid coaches in football now at Michigan State.
Yeah. Kevin Steele was the other
which, one. Which, looking now, would have been an easier decision to make if you could go back in hindsight and hire someone different.